Okay, so get this. Today we're diving deep into the world of Dr. Andrew Huberman.
Yeah, he's a neuroscientist, like a really big deal in the science world.
It's huge. But you know, it's really interesting. His path to, well, everything he is now, it's wild.
Totally. He's so open about his past, even the rough parts.
Right.
I mean, picture this. He's the self-proclaimed feral teenager.
Oh, wow.
Ends up in, get this, a residential treatment program at 14.
14, seriously. That's like before most kids even start high school.
I know, right? And now look at him. Stanford professor, groundbreaking brain discoveries. It's mind-blowing.
It's incredible, that kind of transformation.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder how someone goes from that to, well, that.
And that's exactly what we're going to unpack in this deep dive. Neuroplasticity, the whole idea that our brains can actually change.
It's like a superpower we don't realize we have, you know?
Totally. And Huberman's life, it's living proof. He didn't just decide to change like new year, new me kind of thing.
No, it was way deeper than that.
Way deeper. July 4th, 1994, he writes this letter to himself, to his parents, vowing to turn things around. Talk about a declaration.
Wow, so he goes from, getting into fights his freshman year of college to completely immersing himself in learning.
It's like he had to learn to be his own parent, build that self-discipline most people his age hadn't even thought about yet.
It makes you wonder, how does someone go from feeling so lost to become, Dr. Andrew Huberman, neuroscientist extraordinaire?
$1 million question, right. And a big part of it, like we said, neuroplasticity. It's not some abstract thing. Huberman's a walking, talking example of the brain's ability to literally rewire itself.
It really makes you rethink that whole saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Right. And get this, he's found that even in people in their 80s and 90s, there's still potential for new neuron growth. It's amazing.
That is really amazing. Like, no matter how old you are, there's always room to learn and change. So hopeful, right?
Totally. And speaking of fascinating stuff about the brain, Huberman's work on dopamine is incredible. He calls it the motivation molecule. And he's got this really cool way of explaining it. The seesaw analogy.
The seesaw analogy. Okay, I'm intrigued.
So imagine you're on a seesaw.
Okay, got it. Up and down, up and down.
Exactly. When you experience something pleasurable or exciting, boom, dopamine surges, you're at the peak of the seesaw.
Makes sense. So what happens when you swing back down?
That's where it gets tricky. Just like on a real seesaw, what goes up must come down. And that dopamine dip can make you feel pretty crummy.
So we're chasing that high again and again, right? Whether it's that amazing meal, scrolling through social media, even that project at work.
Exactly. We get hooked on the dopamine rush without realizing we're setting ourselves up for that crash afterward. It's a vicious cycle.
And it's not just the obvious stuff, like addiction, right? I mean, think about those people who are always on, pushing themselves to the max, workaholics, extreme athletes.
Totally. They're basically riding that dopamine roller coaster all day long. They crave that feeling of being on, but they never give themselves a chance to, just be.
And that's a recipe for burnout, for sure.
100%. Burnout, anxiety, maybe even some physical problems down the line. It's not sustainable. It's like, that saying, you can't pour from an empty cup. You got to refill. Let your brain and body chill out. Find that balance again.
So how do we do that? How do we manage this dopamine thing without letting it control us? What's Huberman's take?
Well, he's big on this idea of knowing your energy rhythms.
Energy rhythms.
Yeah, when do you feel naturally more, on? When do you hit a wall? Are you a morning person or more of a night owl? Work with those rhythms, not against them.
Oh, that makes sense. I know I get my best work done in the morning, trying to power through in the afternoon. Yeah. It just never works. My brain's like, nope, time for a break.
Exactly. And speaking of breaks, don't underestimate rest and recovery. Huberman's a huge fan of NSDR.
NFDR, yes. Okay, for those who haven't heard all the Huberman hype yet, what is it?
So NSDR, it stands for non-sleep deep rest. Basically, it's guided relaxation, helps your brain and body downshift without actually falling asleep, a total system reset. And the best part, Huberman's got these free NSDR scripts on his YouTube channel. You can try it right now.
See, that's what's so great about Huberman. He's all about the science, but then he gives you these tools you can actually use. He walks the walk.
Totally. And those tools, they're not always complicated either. He's big on sleep, of course.
Well, of course.
Although he's also said that 8 hours isn't some magic number for everyone. You got to figure out what works for you. But yeah, sleep, hydration, moving your body, basic stuff, but so important.
It really comes down to figuring out what works for you, right? Not trying to be some carbon copy of someone else.
Exactly. And this is where his whole perspective on human connection gets really interesting.
Oh, so
Well, you wouldn't necessarily think that someone so, I don't know, driven, science-minded would get emotional talking about friendship. But he does.
really?
Yeah, he chokes up when he talks about his friends being there for him during a tough time. Just their presence, not trying to fix anything, just being there. It meant the world to him.
It's true. Sometimes the best thing you can do is just listen without judgment, be that shoulder to cry on.
Right. And he has this really simple but powerful piece of advice. Ready for it.
Hit me with it.
Send a good morning text to a friend or family member every day.
Wow. So simple, but it's true. It's that little gesture, that effort to stay connected. I actually started doing that with a few friends, and it's made a bigger difference than I thought it would.
Totally. It's about those small, consistent actions. They add up. He talks about making an effort to connect with people in his neighborhood, just saying hi, striking up conversations. Little things.
Those little things matter. It's like that saying, people might forget what you said, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And those little acts of kindness, they make people feel seen, appreciated.
100%. And those positive interactions, no matter how small, they can really change your whole outlook. Especially these days, it's so easy to get caught up in everything, the busyness, our phones, all of it.
Yeah.
We need those moments of genuine connection.
We do.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've covered dopamine, rewiring our brains, the importance of connection. But there's this other concept of Huberman's that I find really interesting, the whole essential self thing.
Yeah.
What is that exactly? Like, is this core part of us, even before the world starts telling us who we should be? It's like, yeah, those core parts of us that stay the same even as we grow and change.
Exactly. But it's also, and this is where it gets deep, he's saying we might be like hiding or ignoring parts of that essential self.
Yeah.
Trying to fit in, get approval, all that.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
It's so easy to do that, right? Society is always telling us what we should be, what success looks like.
Right. And then we wonder why we feel kind of empty, like we're living someone else's life.
It takes a lot of self-awareness to step back and be like, hold on, am I being true to myself or am I just trying to please everyone else?
And it's crazy? Huberman says that fear, like real fear, it can actually point us in the right direction.
What do you mean? Isn't fear like the opposite of what we want?
Yeah, that's what we usually think, right? But he's saying that what we're most afraid of losing, that often reveals what we truly value.
That's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it that way.
Totally flips the script. So instead of running from fear, we can use it as a guide, a compass pointing us toward like a more authentic life.
I love that. So to kind of bring it all home, this deep dive into Huberman's world, it feels like it's about really getting to know ourselves,
Wow.
on a much deeper level, tuning out all the external noise and listening to that inner voice, that essential self that knows us better than anyone.
It's like, stop trying to fit in, start standing out, embrace the things that make you you, the quirks, the unique wiring, those are your strengths, not your weaknesses.
Absolutely. And it takes courage to do that, to be vulnerable, to question everything we thought we knew about ourselves and what we're capable of.
It's a journey.
It is, but it's a journey worth taking.
Sure.
So until next time, everyone, keep exploring, keep learning, and most importantly, keep listening to that essential self.